Do you read me? Is anyone out there?
In the new film, Another Earth, which imagines the discovery of an identical planet,
Our Earth is replicated elsewhere.
actress Brit Marling plays Rhoda Williams.
The mystery flight member is 21-year-old Rhoda Williams, who is rumored to be an ex-convict.
Who enters a contest to win a ticket to Earth2.
Do you remember that essay contest I told you about? The travel to Earth2?
Uh-huh.
I won.
In fact, the film did win a major award at this year's Sundance Film Festival.
The special jury prize for U.S. dramatic film goes to Mike Cahill and Brit Marling.
And suddenly, it's Brit Marling's career that seems headed for the stars.
I feel so lucky and humbled and honored to be a part of the conversation that's happening here.
Do you know the story of the Russian cosmonaut?
In Another Earth, Marling's character tells the story of a cosmonaut tortured by a ticking sound in his spaceship.
But he can't find it. He can't stop it. He keeps going. So cosmonaut decides the only way to save his sanity is to fall in love with this sound. So he closes his eyes. And when he opens them, he doesn't hear ticking anymore. He hears music.
Another Earth was one of two films at the festival that she not only starred in, but co-wrote and co-produced. In the other, Sound of My Voice, she plays a mysterious cult leader.
Go backwards to childhood. Travel back to a time before words.
All this has made the 27-year-old Marling one of the most talked about young talents in the industry. But the actress she likes to talk about might surprise you.
I read you wanted to be like Barbara Stanwyck.
Oh my gosh, she's amazing.
How do you know Barbara Stanwyck?
I think she's such an interesting example of how to be a woman.
Why, Hopsy, you ought to be kept in a cage.
Marling first saw Stanwyck in the 1941 film The Lady Eve.
Hold me tight.
I was like, wow, she's sexy, but she's in control of her sex appeal, and she's smart.
So this is where you gave your valedictory speech.
You're totally embarrassing me.
Marling is no dummy either. At Washington's Georgetown University, she was valedictorian of her graduating class in 2005.
You went into Georgetown as an econ major.
Yeah. Well, double econ studio art major, and on the studio art
Whoa,
side...
wait a minute. Econ studio, where does that come together?
I don't know. I think that was a weird, like, left brain, right brain, you know, sort of...
What were you planning to do with those two things?
I don't think I had a plan.
When I think of Georgetown, I think of politicians, I think of diplomats, I think of basketball
Bill
players.
Clinton.
I don't think of movie makers. What happened?
What did happen? Did we, like, all drink the same Kool-Aid, like, freshman year? I don't know, I guess.
But in the summer before her senior year, Marling interned as an analyst at Wall Street's powerhouse investment bank, Goldman Sachs.
And ultimately, I mean, Goldman Sachs offered you a job. And you said,
No, thank you.
no, thank you?
I could see where my life was going. I could see the kind of person I was sort of becoming, and it seemed not right. I was like missing something.
Instead, Marling took a year off from college to make a documentary in Cuba.
Life is burning in your blood. You are young, and the window of youth is narrow.
So I called my parents and I was like, I'm not going back to school.
And what did they say?
I'm going to Cuba. I'm moving to Cuba with Mike, this amazing filmmaker that I met at school.
What did your parents say?
There was some silence on the phone. There was a long pause, and I was like, Mom.
With Mike Cahill, she made the film Boxers and Ballerinas, which followed artists and athletes in the communist country. Marling met both Cahill, who directed Another Earth, and Zal Batmanglij, who directed Sound of My Voice, at a campus film festival at Georgetown.
And it was just like this weird tribe of people came out of nowhere, and this like whole movement happened. It was really cool.
The trio moved out to L.A. together to make their mark, but Marling didn't like the parts she was auditioning for.
I don't want to do this like horror film where like my head is coming off at the end and like, or I'm like running away from somebody in like, you know, a bikini. I mean, what? I didn't recognize any of the women in those stories. They weren't like my mother or my grandmother or these like strong, interesting, charismatic women that I see around me all the time. I wasn't finding them in the things I was reading, and so I thought, well, maybe I should try to figure out how to write them.
That's when Marling and Cahill came up with the idea for Another Earth. It was literally a homemade film. Cahill's parents' house in New Haven, Connecticut, played the home of Marling's character. Shooting when they could, on a shoestring budget, they had to improvise.
There's one scene in the film, the hypothermia scene, and that scene in real life has taken place in 4 different seasons. Like, shot 1 is from the winter, shot 2 is from the spring.
They had to break into a ski resort to find snow.
And there was like one mountain where they were manufacturing snow. So we waited till everyone left, and then we climbed over the fence and got in there.
And you stole their snow.
And we stole their snow.
How'd you feel about the reception at Sundance?
Oh my gosh. I have never seen anything like it. It blew my mind.
Another Earth was given a standing ovation.
And I was just like, how has this happened? Like this small handmade film at Mike's mom's house. Oh my gosh, I went back to my hotel room and I just cried. I just cried. I couldn't believe it.
You just did your first Hollywood film. How'd that feel?
It was really cool.
She stars in the financial thriller Arbitrage, slated to open next year.
Richard Gere plays this hedge fund manager, and I play his daughter, who he's sort of grooming to take over his empire. And
so your econ major came in handy after all.
It totally did. Is that what it was all about?
Hollywood is now betting Brit Marling's future is a good investment. She just wants to be sure she doesn't sell her soul.
Every day I'm struggling with it, to be honest. Like, how do you make sure that you're choosing things that are always something you believe in?
Well, you hope you're lucky enough to have those options.
You hope you are lucky enough to have those options, and if you don't have them, you go back to the drawing board and try to write them.
You make zombie movies.
Yeah. Yeah.